This will probably be one of my most controversial from the Dojangs, especially since it's about Bruce Lee and race relations. You see, it's my contention that Bruce Lee had an impact on the Black American community in the 1960s and 70s that still, in a small way, resonates today. Not to say that he was as important a figure as Malcolm X, Huey P. Newton, Martin Luther King, and many, many others, but he did contribute, in a way, to increasing Black pride. Bruce Lee is one of the greatest and most influential martial arts actors that ever was. His star was so bright that all other martial artists were forced into his shadow. We're familiar with his history and his biography, so I will not rehash that material here. Suffice it to say that his 4 movies not only changed Hollywood's perception of Asians, it also changed the methodology of handling fight scenes. He was one of the first crossover superstars. He appealed to a wide audience: white, black, Asian, young and not so young.
Another challenge for the Green Hornet.
To the Black community in the 1960s and early 70s, Bruce Lee was a complete package. Now, we first saw him as Kato in the Green Hornet. His swagger, his cool, his confidence in his skills, and the fact that he was not white was something that attracted us. The fact that he was a butler or manservant to Britt Reed was not lost on us. He did what we wanted to do, and we could watch him do it every week on television. Remember, this was the 1960s, and there just wasn't any other non-white actor on TV who did what he did with the frequency that he did it. It's no secret that people began training in the martial arts because of Bruce Lee. Not just Black Americans, everyone did. When the Green Hornet was canceled, we still followed Bruce Lee. We watched shows like Longstreet, Here Come the Brides, and Ironsides, waiting for Bruce to show his stuff. We saw the movie Marlowe, starring James Garner, even though Bruce had little more than a comic cameo appearance. When the Kung Fu movie craze began with King Boxer, or as it was called in the USA, Five Fingers of Death, the first thing a number of us said was, "Hey, where's Bruce Lee?" Well, we didn't have long to wait. The first Bruce Lee movie released in the States was Fist of Fury, known everywhere else as The Big Boss. It was one man's battle against a lying, cheating, oppressive rich boss who had exploited and murdered his long-suffering and underpaid employees. This went on until one man couldn't take it anymore and fought back. And he fought back in a simple, basic, and primal way. And that way was extremely cathartic for the audience. Not just for young audiences, but also for the adults. There have been a number of movies that express the sentiments of The Big Boss. Script-wise, The Big Boss didn't break any new ground. One could argue that such films as On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando, Billy Wilder's The Apartment starring Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine shared the same theme, but it was not presented the same way as this movie. At this time in the early 1970s, there was a new wave of films featuring black folks. We had movies like Shaft,
In the bed, I'm your pusher man.
Superfly,
Can a Superfly Harlem dude beat the system? He's got a plan to stick it to the man. He's super hood, super high, super dude, super fly.
Cotton Comes to Harlem, and Black Caesar. This is when we saw the cool, smooth, take-no-mess black heroes portrayed by such actors as Richard Roundtree, Fred Williamson, and of course, Jim Brown. Now, Bruce wasn't cool and smooth like they were. He was different. Bruce was a ticking time bomb. His energy was so powerful, you could feel it through the movie screen. no one before or since can do the slow boil to an explosion of rage like Bruce Lee. And I'm including such notable actors like Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. Plus, Bruce's persona was like he was from around the way. He swaggered and walked like those guys in your neighborhood. You could picture him walking past your apartment building, going to the basketball courts, to the club, or wherever. After The Big Boss came Fist of Fury, or as it was called in the USA, The Chinese Connection. If you ever wanted to discuss a movie that was embraced by and resonated with the minority culture, it was The Chinese Connection. We understood that the Chinese was a minority in that film, oppressed by the Japanese. We identified with the impotence of the Chinese authority when confronted by the Japanese. It all felt very, very familiar. We felt it all the way down to our soul when Bruce entered the Japanese dojo and beat the schnoogies out of everyone in there. Breaking into the white man's house and forcing him to treat blacks with respect was something that black folks had dreamed of doing for years, and here, in a sense, Bruce was doing the same thing. There's another scene that really had an impact on us. Bruce wanted to enter a park, and he stopped by a guard and shown a sign that reads, "No Chinese or dogs allowed." The guard then allows a white woman to enter the park with a small dog. Now, what sets Bruce off is when a Japanese man tells him they'll allow him to enter the park if he got on his knees and walks like a dog. Not only does Bruce beat up the Japanese, played by Chinese actors, but he flamboyantly destroys the sign also. That scene got applause in Chinese theaters, but it was also applauded every time it was shown to an inner city or black audience. Many folks responded because it was them kicking down the whites-only signs. He was a hero that responded the way we wished we could, and he was not white. Side note, how many kids in the neighborhood started walking around with nunchucks after seeing this movie? I know some people whose elbows and ribs are still hurting from trying to learn how to twirl those things. I don't think it was a coincidence that theater owners and distributors often paired Bruce Lee's movies, especially Fist of Fury and The Chinese Connection, with films like Trouble Man.
My name's T, baby.
One man, Chuck. He's just one man. Don't make him sound like a goddamn army.
T has one edge, and that's his cool, but that's enough, baby, because he's thinking all the time. And if he wants your ass, he gets it.
Slaughter.
Jim Brown is Slaughter.
Welcome to the party.
Well, I hope you're better with that knife than you were with that big black car. 'Cause I'm gonna jam it up your... Now, if you're still breathing, you better come on out here real slow.
Jim Brown is Slaughter. It's not only his name, it's his business.
I'm gonna lay this on you one time, baby. I'm gonna kill him. And anybody else that gets in my way.
Hell Up in Harlem, and the other so-called blaxploitation films. You see, I think they knew the audience. I think they knew who really wanted to see these films. Enter the Dragon and Return of the Dragon, or Way of the Dragon, reinforced Bruce's incredible skill and persona, even if those two movies did not speak directly to the black community as did the first two films. Enter the Dragon was a formula we had seen many times in the 1960s. It was basically another spy movie, such as James Bond and Fu Manchu. An evil Asian warlord is threatening the security of the free world, and only a handful of people are the ones who can stop him. One of the significant things about Enter the Dragon is that I believe it was the force of Bruce Lee's personality that really powered this movie. I cannot think of any other film made successful simply by the will of its lead actor. After Enter the Dragon, you could say that the martial arts boom was here. Magazines, books. Comic books had martial arts superheroes. Judo, karate, kung fu classes at the YMCAs, recreation centers, and actual martial arts schools were booming. Everyone was interested in martial arts, not just black folks, but everyone. Also during this time period, a number of masters from Korea and Japan came to the U.S. to promote and establish their art. It's interesting to note that most of these masters started their classes in the inner city and had young black men and some women as their first students. Most of these students will tell you that their first exposure and the initial desire to learn the arts came from watching Bruce Lee on TV and in the movies.
What could be more exciting than Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon? Bruce Lee in Return of the Dragon. Yes, Bruce Lee is back, blazing his way from Hong Kong to hell in the all-new fantastic adventures of the superhero he created in Enter the Dragon. It's Lee, Unleashed. Lee.
Way of the Dragon, or Return of the Dragon, so called to capitalize on the fact that Bruce Lee had previously died. This was another old formula. It was a fish out of water story, or more appropriately, Country Bumpkins travels to the big city. In this film, Bruce was an outsider. The people already in Italy had made fun of Bruce's manner, his ignorance and general lack of sophistication, and after all, he was from the country, so to speak. Now, when the awkward bumpkin proves to be a badass of the highest degree and the savior, it was cathartic. Many folks wish they could do what he did, and especially when this bumpkin proved out. When Bruce Lee's death was announced, it was felt all over the world, and honestly, to a lot of folks in the black community, it had felt like one of our own had died. Bruce Lee was a person of color that no one could mess with without suffering severe repercussions. Just so you know, Asians, Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, and so forth were considered to be of the yellow race. They too were considered to be colored, just like black folks. Bruce Lee didn't need a gun, he didn't need a knife or anything else other than himself, his fist and his feet. I remember one summer when I was a kid in the 1970s, watching The Chinese Connection for the umpteenth time in the Times Square Theater, when I spotted my uncle sitting a couple of rows ahead of me. He was off from work and sneaking in a couple of hours before heading home. Now, my uncle was a college-educated man who worked as a shipping or a transfer clerk or something like that in Midtown Manhattan. Well, there he was, shouting and cheering at that sign-kicking scene and other signs of Bruce whipping butt as if it were a live event unfolding before our eyes. When it was over, I saw him outside and asked him why he enjoyed that movie so much. He just smiled and said, "What that Bruce Lee guy did to those men and those people, well, that's something I always wanted to do." Bruce Lee is an icon, not unlike Elvis Presley or James Dean. And in fact, you can find his posters and images in inner city stores, often right next to the posters and images of Biggie and Tupac. This is not to say that Bruce Lee wasn't important or had an impact in other communities such as the Irish community, Italian, Jewish, white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, and certainly the Chinese community. But in this instance, I'm talking about the black community and how they felt and received Bruce Lee. That's it for now. Until next time.